In June of 2022, ruxolitinib, or Opzelura, the active compound in it, was finally the first FDA-approved treatment for non-segmental vitiligo ever in history. It was a huge moment and everyone was cheering it up. But now, 3 years after its approval, we have real-world data, larger patient follow-ups, and a better idea about who it benefits most. This cream, Opzelura. So I wanted to make this quick video to share some of the anecdotal experiences I found over the internet, as well as some testimonials. I'm also gonna talk about something really important, which is how to use Opzelura correctly, because I found that a lot of people are not using it the correct way, the way that it was intended to be used. And so they don't find any good results and they blame it on the drug. And I'm gonna briefly touch the topic of how to get Opzelura in India. And yeah, so jumping into these before and after pictures. Okay, so we first have this gentleman who posted on a vitiligo subreddit, which is a good way to find people who have the same condition that you do. It's a good way to find a good support network on the internet. So the first picture, obviously this is his baseline. He didn't use anything before this picture. And 7 months forward, this is how he benefited from Opzelura. 7 months apart, obviously a huge improvement from what he had, but he later quit using Opzelura for a couple of months. I think he said 5 months or so, and you can see the depigmented patches reappeared on his face. And this is something that we expect. Opzelura is the kind of treatment that you need to use consistently in order to benefit from those results. And I'm gonna talk about that and why is that in the section of the video where I talk about the mechanism of Opzelura. Second case that we have is a female patient who used Opzelura for 5 months. This is her initial photos. You can see depigmentation in her face, which is the most bothersome depigmentation vitiligo patients report. And you can see her improvement throughout the months, and then just magnificent. 5 months apart. You can't even say that she ever had vitiligo in this picture. I don't know if the lighting in this picture maybe is a little bit deceiving, but I see a huge improvement even in the previous picture, and this is only after 5 months of use. Next picture. This is actually a picture of the hand. I wanted to diversify the areas of vitiligo where I show these results. And so this is a picture of the hand, and this Reddit user was actually asking about the hair growth that he experienced after applying Opzelura for that area. And we know that immunosuppressant pharmaceuticals are some of the most anti-alopecia treatments out there. But we usually don't, of course, we don't use them for that treatment, for the treatment of hair loss. But they definitely have some hair growth effect. And Opzelura is one of them. Opzelura inhibits the JAK pathway, and so it suppresses the immunity in some way. So that may be one of the reasons why this man experienced such a hair growth in that area. But apart from that, you can see the repigmentation. This is great. This is fantastic stuff. And one other one, this is a small depigmented macule on his face just under the mustache, and you can see using Opzelura for 3 months in this particular case, no depigmentation at all. He also had depigmentation in his hands, and it also improved significantly after 3 months of use. And it's important to keep in mind the actual duration of treatment, because I'm gonna specify that point just after showing the next result. And the next result is a woman. She talks about her repigmentation story and how her vitiligo affected her, and this is again another tool at your disposal to share your stories or even read others' stories about their experience with vitiligo if your vitiligo is distressing to you. And she had vitiligo on her face. She claims that she had segmental vitiligo, which I don't think she actually does, but she says so. Nevertheless, this is her before pictures and this is her after pictures. And I talked briefly why some people are not finding the results that they want to find after using Opzelura for a limited period of time. And I think that essentially comes to the way they're using this drug. And so this treatment is intended to be used for 1 year. And just to quote the clinical study that was used for the FDA approval of this treatment, approximately 50% of patients achieved greater than or equal to 75% improvement at 52 weeks, compared with improvement from baseline reported for those people at week 24, which was 29.9%. And this basically means that if you're using Vitiligo only for 3 months or even 6 months, you're only seeing parts of the potential of the improvement that treatment can give you. If you decided to hop on Opzelura, this treatment, at least give it 1 year until giving it your full assessment, and maybe to move to something else if it didn't work for you. But before that period, before the 1 year mark, I wouldn't really be giving it a fair chance to quit this drug without giving it that 1 year again. Again, I talked extensively about who can use Opzelura in the first place. These are people who have mostly non-segmental vitiligo, which is the type that is caused by the autoimmune pathogenesis or mechanism of action, in contrast to the segmental vitiligo, which is caused by the neurotoxicity theory that we have. And so these two theories are the two theories that we have behind the mechanism of how vitiligo affects the skin and affects the melanocytes, the actual cells that produce the pigment. I made a whole video about how can you distinguish only by looking at yourself in the mirror between segmental and non-segmental vitiligo, so you can go and watch that video, because if you do have segmental vitiligo, chances are you are not going to benefit from this treatment, as Opzelura is actually an immunosuppressant. It suppresses the immunity and the inflammatory response in the skin, which is caused by the JAK pathway. A lot of details, but you just need to remember that Opzelura works by suppressing the immunity. So it doesn't really make sense to use it on the type of vitiligo that is not caused by the autoimmunity theory. So you only use Opzelura if you have the non-segmental type of vitiligo. Something else very important that I needed to talk about is how to get Opzelura in India. And I'm gonna start doing a little bit of an investigation to get you guys a good source to get Opzelura in India. What I know from now is that Opzelura is still not approved in India. Nevertheless, people are getting it somehow. I read in the comments people are getting it in India, in Pakistan, and Bangladesh. A lot of my viewer bases are from those areas, especially when it comes to vitiligo. And so I'm gonna do some research, I'm gonna make some calls, and I'm gonna write some emails to try to figure out how to get Opzelura in that part of the planet through the cheapest routes and the safest routes, which is really important. And so bear with me, and I'm gonna share with you some news in the next upcoming days or weeks. Another thing that I wanted to ask from you is, please share with me in the comments, what do you have as concerns regarding your vitiligo? What are the things that you want me to address regarding this topic, research, and present to you in the most entertaining and informative way that I can? And I'm also gonna post a link in the description where you can book a 30-minute meeting with me to discuss your vitiligo, whether it's the psychological distress that it caused you, whether it's discovering and exploring new treatment options. This is obviously not gonna be a medical consultation, although I am a doctor, but it's gonna be a meeting where you will have the free space to ask me any questions regarding any of the compounds used or treatment options used to combat vitiligo, or even to talk about the psychological background or view that you have regarding this topic. Anyways, I made this video way too long than what I intended it to be in the beginning. Thank you for tuning in, and see you. Bye bye.